Welcome to Jim Sim Chinwags, my lunch break Thursday afternoons, at least for now. But yeah, having a chinwag with friends and hopefully not enemies on Facebook. But anyway, if you're on my Facebook, I guess you're a friend. And yeah, just chatting about all different things that come to my attention through the week, and of a spiritual nature, or of content to do with God and how to connect with God deeper and more personally, more intimately, all that kind of thing. And so yeah, I'll hit a bunch of different topics, and hopefully they're helpful, encouraging people, strengthening people's hearts and their lives in a better way. Last week I was talking about, put a little title called Medicare, and if you're in the US, that means different than what I mean it. But this week I want to do Medicare 2 dose, Mark 2. Let's talk about that a little more, because just try to keep these things short, and people are having lunch and things like that. I am anyway. I haven't eaten yet, but I'm going to in a minute. I try to not do it because I'm learning. Don't eat before you do a Facebook Live, because you get stuff in your teeth. So anyway, I want to talk about Medicare again, meaning how you care for yourself with the habit of meditation. A lot of people, of course, would think of meditation as something that I don't mean it. So let me give a bit of definition about that by comparing the two. A lot of people think of meditation as, I don't know, probably more ideas than I have about it, but certainly the main one comes to a lot of people's mind is the idea of kind of emptying yourself. Like, just kind of emptying your head space, and let's see what fills it. And I'm not referring to that at all. That's seems like not something I'd want to do. Empty my head. That's a lot of what happens when people get drunk or take drugs and things like that. You kind of become something else, or someone that you're not normally. And I don't want to be doing that, drunk or sober. Emptying your head and becoming someone that you're not would not be a good thing. So what it is then is this is a definition I like to have thinking about meditation. Is it's the habit, and it should be a habit. Well, it's a habit even if you realize it or not. Maybe I'll come back to that. But it is certainly what I'm aiming for, is to encourage people. Something that I've benefited from is creating a habit, an intentional habit of deliberate thought content. So it's not emptying your head, it's deliberate what you're thinking about proactively, and it's specifically centered on God. So let's kind of put that into one sentence. The habit of deliberate thought content centered on God. The habit of deliberate thought content centered on God. That's what I mean by a meditation being a positive and helpful thing for our lives. There's a lot of Bible verses, especially for Christian people who are familiar with the Bible, and maybe you've studied a bit about other religions and cults and things like that. When you've been sharing the gospel with other people, you would become aware of the kind of other people's ideas about meditation. And so when a Christian mentions it, you can get a little nervy, like, oh, he's talking about meditation, he's getting weird now. Well, let's give a couple of Bible verses to it, because it's not my idea. It's God's idea. And you have in the very first Psalm, in the book of Psalms, Psalm 1:2, it talks about a particular type of individual, a righteous person, and it says that his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. So you can see a habit there, that it's not just a one-off thing when you're on a retreat, or when you're on holiday, or at the weekend, or for that 30 seconds or 15 seconds you get at the end of a sermon in church. No, it's talking here about that this guy, this person that's being described in the first Psalm. It says that the righteous guy doesn't stand in the way of sinners or sit in the seat of mockers, and it's giving a picture of some of his lifestyle. And this is a really important part of his lifestyle. He meditates day and night. So he has this habit of meditating, centering his thoughts, the content of his thoughts, on God. There's other Bible verses, lots of them, and there's a few in the Psalms. One of them, Psalm 119, it's the longest Psalm, verse 15, it says, I will meditate on your precepts and fix my eyes on your ways. So again, you can see a precedent for this pattern of choosing what it is that you're thinking about, deciding what you're thinking about, that it's God that you're going to meditate on, that you're going to muse on. I love that word muse. I wonder if that's where the word music comes from. It seems like it would be, but I haven't researched that. But anyway, there's a Psalm 77 says, I will meditate on all your work and muse on your deeds. This hat looks like a musing hat, actually. Anyway, you could wear one of these and just get a pipe or something like that and act like an old granddad and muse a little bit, but play chess at the same time. But yeah, musing on the not just on any old thing or just random thoughts and trying to figure things out. Musing or meditating deliberately are actually on God's works, on God's deeds, on God's promises, on God's principles, on God's character, on God's personality, on what God likes, on what God is like. That would be the habit of meditation that would be profitable, and that I have found profitable, and is what I'm sharing right here. So it's intentional thought content centered on God, and it does something for us. When the whole point of it is, well, there's lots of different points to it, but the biggest point of it is this: we go through life with so many things happening that we're thinking about. It affects how we feel about things, about other people, just how we're feeling inside ourselves, the choices that we make in life. Those things kind of spring from our inner life, from our soul. And Psalm 23, which is so well known, the Lord is my shepherd, is how it begins. I shall not be in want. It goes on to say, He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters, and He restores my soul. That's why meditation is important, and having that habit is because it gives God the opportunity, when we're centering our thoughts on Him and on His ways, it gives Him the space, if you like, the making ourselves available for Him to restore our soul, to restore our emotional life, our mental state, the things that we're choosing if we're making bad choices, to become better at choosing the right things in our lives. So that Psalm 23 is more than just something that you read, at a funeral. You often hear it read at funerals or when people are sick. Rightly so. I mean, it's very comforting. But it's more than just comforting. It's giving instruction in there about giving God the chance to restore us, to bring us back to a proper state of mind, emotional health, spiritual health, and all of that. Excuse me. In fact, you have a New Testament example of it that's a really good one. A lot of people will know this. Philippians chapter 4, around about verse 8, it talks about, the Apostle Paul is talking about a number of different things. And then he says this: finally, brothers, normally when you're getting ready to wrap it up, you go, okay, anyway, the last thing, finally, he says, think about things that are true, that are noble, that are right, that are pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy. He said, think about these things. Anything that's excellent or praiseworthy, he says, think about these things. In other words, choose it. Decide that you're gonna take time and space in your life to not just try to figure things out, to not just try to chew over decisions you're gonna make, but to meditate, to still yourself and consider how God is. Consider the virtues of God. And meditate on those things, because there's another Bible verse in the Proverbs, I don't remember the reference for it, but it says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, or so he is. So in other words, that your life gets shaped, our lives get shaped and take a form that follows what we're thinking about. I mean, I've heard this phrase, I really like it. It says, don't believe everything you think. I really like that. Don't believe everything you think. There's a lot of thoughts that pass through our mind on any given day about all sorts of things. And that's what I said at the beginning. We're meditating whether we realize it or not. When you think, I think it's just that we're so distracted we don't realize. But if you think about meditating, it's like, what are you processing and going through your mind and ruminating or chewing over? You're doing it while you're watching TV, reading the newspaper, surfing through social media, online shopping. There's lots of different places that we're getting input that's coming in, that's affecting how we're thinking, And we're meditating on that even in our busyness. In the back, we know that phrase, in the back of my mind, I was doing this or I was thinking that. That's happening a lot. That's what meditation is a lot. We're rethinking and rethinking and rethinking habitually things that are often negative for us and have a negative output in our life. That's why Proverbs said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Our actions and our outcomes are going to follow what we're really meditating on. And so starting to learn a habit, a healthy habit, or a habit of healthy meditation, which would be deliberate and intentional on God's words, on God's kingdom, what his kingdom is like. I mean, his kingdom is so good, his nature is so good and so kind that when you meditate just on that, just the kindness of God, there's so many things in the Bible you could choose from that describes God's character that you could just take a little snippet of and you could just meditate and chew on that for 20 minutes in the morning or at night. And that's the habit that I've meditate, to just chew on something about God that's about his nature, his character, his goodness, or a Bible verse, not to get the total understanding of it, how you interpret it and the exegesis and all that stuff, but what's it revealing about God's nature. There's one in James that says, for example, the book of James, it says that every good and perfect gift comes down from the Father of lights. Just think about that in there, that he's a father, that he's above us, that every good gift we have comes from him. And you could think about how God gave you your kids, or how God gave you your spouse, or how God gave you your health, or how God gave you your job, or how God gave you a great place to live, or how God, education. The list goes on, and you could just pick one and meditate on that, how God did it, how it came from him. And that does something to you, how you're going to go about your day. And so there's lots of practical ways that you can do this. I've already mentioned one. But I want to encourage you to take 20 minutes in your day in the morning. I mean, how easy is that? 15 minutes even. It'll change your life if you get in that habit. I guarantee it. That and I guarantee it because God guarantees it. Remember, it's still waters, green pastures from the Psalms. He restores your soul. He'll set your mind straight. He'll set your emotions straight. He'll set what you're choosing straight when you give him the chance and the opportunity and some time. 15 minutes. Take 15 minutes. Pick a Bible verse. Start in the book of Psalms. Just pick one line and sit and just meditate on that for that 15 or 20 minutes. Just think it over again. And when you start to hear the lawnmower or the garbage truck or the milkman or whoever it is outside, or the kids making a noise or whatever, that you just take control of your mind, take it back to that same thought and meditate on it and chew on it. And it doesn't take very long actually, where that habit, when you get in the routine of it regularly, day after day, starts to really impact your inner world. And the most important thing, the best thing about all that is you actually start to experience and encounter God's presence. He says at one point in the Bible that he's exalted above all things, his name and his word. When you start meditating on the word of God and on God's nature, you begin to encounter him. He reveals more of himself to you through it, that it's not just words. Jesus said quite a number of times in the Gospels, let him who has ears to hear, let him hear. Let him who has eyes to see, let him see. You think about when he said, ask and it will be given, seek and you'll find, knock and the door will be open to you. You think of those just couple of verses right there. If you want to hear, you have to want to hear. If you want to see, you have to want to see. And that's what he said. So meditation helps us to do that. We begin to see God, we begin to hear God. And a lot of people are frustrated because they hear other people talking about that and go, that just sounds mystical and weird. What do you mean you heard God talking to you, or you saw God at work? There's a lot that we're missing because we're not accessing that inner world of ours, stopping and meditating on God's nature and give him the opportunity to reveal himself to you so that you can hear God, and now you become one of those mystical weirdo people. But it's such a privilege, it's such a beautiful thing to encounter God's presence in our lives in a really crucial way to do it. In fact, if you really want to do it deeply and frequently over time, the habit of meditation is non-negotiable. You're going to have to do it. And the thrill and the joy that comes from it and the setting straight that it does for your insights and for your state of mind is remarkable. I found it to be life-changing. Well, I hope that's kind of encouraged you a little bit to go for it, to do it, and have a bash at it. If you're not sure and you want more information, I've got some notes on it, some of the practical ways to do it, maybe how not to do it, and I would love to send them to you. You can send me an email or private, what do you call it? Not an instant message, a private message on Facebook, whatever, and I could give you some notes on that if you wanted that to help you. But anyway, God bless you. Thanks for tuning in. There's plenty more on YouTube, these chin wags and other stuff on my YouTube channel, also on the Facebook page, which you're on right now probably, and at I am Jim Sim. You can find me on Instagram at that address, pretty much anywhere online, all those different platforms for other content. Anyway, God bless you and enjoy the rest of your day.